Hi guys, relax, and step gently into the ancient world. The night is quiet. A soft breeze moves across the dark surface of the Nile River. The water carries faint reflections of stars that shimmer and drift with the current. Along the riverbank, rows of mudbrick homes rest beneath the warm Egyptian sky. Most people are asleep now. The noise of the day has faded away. Workshops stand silent. Market stalls are empty. Boats are tied securely to wooden posts along the shore. Only a few small oil lamps still glow behind narrow windows. Somewhere in the darkness, a dog stirs for a moment before settling down again. Far away, a fisherman adjusts a rope on his boat and listens to the gentle sound of water touching wood. The river never truly sleeps. It moves quietly through the land, just as it has for countless generations. Tonight, we travel back into that ancient world. Not into the grand halls of kings. Not into famous battles. Instead, we enter the everyday life of ordinary people who live beside the Nile. Farmers. Bakers. Builders. Scribes. Boatmen. Mothers. Children. Workers whose names have long been forgotten. Their lives followed patterns that repeated day after day. And those patterns helped create one of the most organized societies the world has ever known. As the stars slowly cross the sky above Egypt, the reason begins to reveal itself. Organization was not simply a choice. It was a necessity. Everything depended on it. The Nile River shaped nearly every part of life. Without the river, Egypt would have been a land of endless desert. Golden sand stretched far beyond the green edges of civilization. The dry earth beyond the river valleys offered little comfort. Rain was rare. Water was precious. But each year, the Nile brought life. The river swelled and spread across the fields. Rich black soil settled onto the land. Crops could grow. Villages could survive. Families could eat. Yet this gift came with a challenge. People needed to know when the waters would rise. They needed to know when to plant. They needed to know when to harvest. Mistakes could mean hunger. Because of this, time itself became important. Long before sunrise, many Egyptians were already awake. The air was cooler during these early hours. The darkness carried a peaceful stillness. Families stirred quietly inside their homes. A worker sleeping on a woven reed mat slowly opened his eyes. His house was simple. Mud brick walls surrounded a small living space. The roof was flat. A few clay jars stood against one wall. A grinding stone sat nearby. Baskets held grain from the previous harvest. The floor beneath him felt cool. Outside, the village remained mostly silent. His wife rose soon afterward. Without speaking much, she began preparing food for the coming day. Grain was ground into flour. Water was carried from storage jars. Dough was mixed carefully by hand. The smell of fresh bread would soon fill the room. These routines happened every morning. Not only in one village. Not only in one region. Across much of Egypt. Thousands upon thousands of people followed similar schedules. The sun had not yet appeared, but work was already beginning. Organization often starts with simple habits. Ancient Egyptians understood this well. As dawn slowly approached, the eastern horizon grew pale. Birds became active among the reeds. The river reflected the first traces of morning light. Then the sun appeared. Its arrival transformed everything. The day had officially begun. Workers moved toward fields. Boatmen prepared vessels. Craftsmen opened workshops. Merchants arranged goods. Scribes collected writing materials. Life flowed outward from homes into the wider world. The same movement happened day after day. The same rhythms connected villages separated by many miles. This regularity created stability. People knew what was expected. They knew when tasks should begin. They knew where they belonged within the larger system. The organization of Egypt was not always visible. It existed inside routines, inside habits, inside expectations. A farmer walking toward his field may not have thought about organization at all. Yet his actions depended on it. His father had followed similar routines. His grandfather had done the same. Knowledge passed quietly between generations. When to plant, when to irrigate, when to harvest, when to store grain. The fields themselves reflected careful planning. Canals carried water from the Nile. Ditches guided its movement. Workers maintained these systems throughout the year. Without cooperation, the fields would suffer. One person alone could not manage everything. Entire communities participated. This shared effort became one of the foundations of Egyptian life. As the morning sun climbed higher, activity increased. The sounds of work spread across the landscape. Wooden tools scraped against soil. Voices carried across open fields. Donkeys transported supplies. Boats glided along waterways. The air slowly warmed. Heat settled over the land. Sweat formed on workers' skin. The labor could be exhausting. Yet most people accepted this reality. Work was part of life. The rhythm of labor matched the rhythm of nature itself. In the distance, a group of scribes sat beneath shade. Their work was different. Instead of lifting heavy loads, they recorded information. Numbers, names, measurements, deliveries, taxes, supplies. The written word played an important role in keeping Egypt organized. Records allowed officials to understand what resources existed and where they were located. A shipment of grain could be tracked. A workforce could be counted. A harvest could be measured. Without writing, managing such a large civilization would have been much harder. The scribes held brushes made from reed. Sheets of papyrus rested before them. Careful marks appeared one by one. The work required patience, concentration, attention to detail. Nearby, laborers moved sacks of grain into storage buildings. Each sack represented countless hours of effort. Fields had been prepared. Seeds had been planted. Water had been managed. Harvests had been gathered. Now the grain needed protection. Storage was another form of organization. Ancient Egyptians understood that good years and difficult years could both arrive. Planning ahead mattered. Large granaries stood ready. Their thick walls helped protect valuable food supplies. Inside, workers stacked grain carefully. Nothing was left to chance. Across Egypt, storage buildings became symbols of preparation. Preparation created security. Security created stability. As midday approached, the heat became intense. The sun stood high above the land. Light reflected from stone surfaces. Dust drifted across roads. Workers moved more slowly. Shade became precious. Many paused briefly to eat. Simple meals often included bread, onions, vegetables, and beer made from grain. Families carried food to workers when possible. People gathered beneath trees. Others rested beside walls. Conversations remained calm. Energy was conserved. Everyone knew there was still much of the day remaining. The organization of Egypt extended beyond work itself. It shaped family life as well. Inside homes, tasks followed familiar patterns. Food preparation required planning. Water needed storage. Clothing required maintenance. Children learned responsibilities from an early age. Parents taught routines through repetition. A child watched grain being ground. Watched bread being baked. Watched tools being repaired. Over time, these activities became natural. Knowledge flowed quietly through daily life. No grand lessons were necessary. Observation was often enough. The organized nature of society reproduced itself generation after generation. By afternoon, the workshops were busy. Potters shaped clay into useful forms. Carpenters worked with wood. Weavers produced cloth. Metal workers crafted tools. Each trade depended upon skill developed over many years. The workshops often felt crowded. The air could become warm and dusty. Tools clicked and scraped. Conversations blended into a steady background hum. Yet even here, order existed. Apprentices learned from experienced craftsmen. Materials were stored carefully. Projects followed predictable steps. The organization of work increased efficiency. People understood their roles. Responsibilities remained clear. Outside, merchants moved through marketplaces. Goods arrived from different regions. Fish from the river. Grain from farms. Pottery from workshops. Textiles from weavers. Markets may have appeared chaotic at first glance. But beneath the activity lay structure. Regular exchanges connected communities. Supply moved where demand existed. People depended on these networks. As afternoon slowly faded, shadows lengthened across roads and courtyards. The intensity of the heat began to ease. Workers sensed the coming evening. Tasks were completed. Tools were gathered. Animals were fed. Boats returned toward shore. One by one, the day's activities wound down. The transition happened gradually. No sudden change. Just a slow settling of energy. The same river that had witnessed morning now reflected golden evening light. Families reunited. Children returned home. The smell of cooking drifted through villages. Smoke rose gently into the air. Inside homes, evening meals were prepared. The pace of life softened. For many workers, this was the most comfortable part of the day. The worst heat had passed. The sky glowed with warm colors. People could finally rest tired muscles. The labor of Egypt was demanding. Building projects required strength. Farming required endurance. Transporting goods required effort. Most people finished each day exhausted. Their hands carried signs of work. Their backs felt strain. Their feet ached from long hours. Yet these workers helped sustain a civilization that depended upon countless daily tasks being completed properly. Organization was not created only by officials or rulers. It was created by ordinary people showing up each day and fulfilling responsibilities. As darkness approached, lamps were lit. Soft flames flickered inside homes. The light danced across mud-brick walls. Conversations became quieter. Some families shared stories. Others discussed plans for the following day. Children grew sleepy. The rhythm of life gently prepared everyone for rest. Outside, the stars slowly emerged. The desert cooled. Night insects produced faint sounds among the reeds. The Nile continued its endless journey through the darkness. A fisherman sat quietly near the water. A guard watched over stored supplies. A traveler settled down beside the road. Most people, however, were preparing for sleep. Tomorrow would arrive soon enough. And tomorrow would bring many of the same responsibilities. The same schedules. The same routines. The same careful organization that held ancient Egypt together. Far from being restrictive, these patterns provided comfort. People knew where they belonged. They understood the expectations of daily life. Predictability reduced uncertainty. The farmer knew when planting season would arrive. The scribe knew what records needed keeping. The baker knew when bread must be ready. The boatman knew when goods would be transported. Life moved within established rhythms. And those rhythms became the invisible framework supporting an entire civilization. As the village grows quiet beneath the stars, warm air drifts gently across rooftops. The Nile reflects the moonlight. A few lamps still glow softly in the darkness. Most have already gone out. Inside simple homes, tired workers sleep peacefully after long hours of labor. Tomorrow, before dawn, the cycle will begin again. And somewhere beyond the sleeping village, the river continues flowing through the ancient night, carrying with it the steady heartbeat of one of history's most carefully organized worlds. The river continues its quiet journey through the darkness. Long after most lamps have gone out, the Nile moves steadily beneath the stars. Gentle ripples brush against reeds growing along the shoreline. Small fishing boats rest where they were tied at sunset. The air is cooler now. The heavy heat of the day has slipped away, leaving behind a calm stillness that settles over villages and fields alike. Inside mud-brick homes, families sleep close together. Some rest on woven mats placed directly upon the floor. Others sleep on simple wooden frames raised slightly above the ground. Blankets are light. The night remains warm for much of the year. Through open doorways and small windows, faint sounds drift inward from the world outside. A distant bird calls once. Then silence returns. For many ancient Egyptians, these quiet hours were precious. The body recovered from the demands of labor. Muscles relaxed after carrying loads, digging canals, grinding grain, rowing boats, or standing for long hours in workshops. Tomorrow would bring work again. But for now, there was rest. Even sleep followed patterns. The organized nature of Egyptian life reached into almost every corner of existence. Daily schedules were shaped by sunlight. Seasons were shaped by the Nile. Duties were shaped by family, community, and occupation. Nothing existed completely alone. Everything connected. As the darkest part of night passes, the first signs of morning begin far beyond the eastern horizon. The stars slowly fade. A pale light touches the edge of the world. The villages remain quiet for a little longer. Then movement begins once more. A woman wakes before sunrise. She sits quietly for a moment, listening. The house is still. Children sleep nearby. Her husband has not yet risen. She reaches for a clay jar and pours water into a bowl. The cool touch helps shake away the last traces of sleep. Soon she begins preparing the first tasks of the day. These moments repeat endlessly throughout Egypt. Across villages large and small. Along riverbanks. Near farming communities. Beside workshops. Within crowded towns. Thousands of households begin their mornings in similar ways. The organization of Egypt did not start in government buildings. It started here. Inside ordinary homes. A household required constant management. Food supplies had to last until the next harvest. Water needed storage. Tools needed care. Clothing required repair. Animals required feeding. Every task connected to another. A forgotten chore could create problems later. Because of this, many families developed routines that rarely changed. Predictability made life easier. Soon, the familiar sound of grinding stones fills the air. Women kneel beside grinding tools, turning grain into flour. The motion is repetitive. Back and forth. Again and again. It is hard work. Dust rises from the grain. Hands become coated with fine powder. The task may continue for long periods. Yet it remains essential. Bread sits at the center of daily life. Without bread, much of the population would struggle to survive. Because bread mattered so much, preparing grain became one of the most important household duties. Nearby, dough is mixed carefully. Small ovens begin warming. The smell of baking bread slowly spreads through narrow streets. As dawn arrives fully, villages awaken. Doors open. People step outside. Children stretch sleepily. Animals become active. The day begins gathering momentum. Across the fields, farmers move toward their work. Many carry simple tools over their shoulders. Others guide donkeys loaded with supplies. The landscape glows beneath the rising sun. Palm trees cast long shadows. Water channels reflect the morning light. Birds move among reeds lining the riverbanks. Everything feels fresh for a short while. Soon enough, the heat will return. For now, however, the air remains gentle. Farmers understand that timing matters. This understanding lies at the heart of Egypt's organization. The Nile controlled the agricultural calendar. Its annual flooding created the conditions necessary for farming. Generations of observation taught people when changes would likely occur. They learned to watch the river carefully. Its behavior affected entire communities. When waters rose, fields disappeared beneath floodwater. When waters receded, fertile soil remained behind. Then planting could begin. Later came growth. Then harvest. This cycle repeated with remarkable consistency. The rhythm became deeply woven into Egyptian life. Children grew up knowing these patterns. Parents planned around them. Officials organized labor around them. Entire villages adjusted their schedules accordingly. The river acted almost like a giant clock. Not measuring hours. Measuring seasons. As the sun climbs higher, activity spreads across the countryside. Workers repair irrigation canals. Others strengthen embankments. Some clear debris from waterways. These jobs may appear simple, but they carry enormous importance. Water must reach crops. Without careful management, valuable farmland could dry out. The irrigation systems require cooperation. One family alone cannot maintain everything. Groups work together. Neighbors assist neighbors. Communities share responsibility. This collective effort strengthens social bonds while also protecting food supplies. In many ways, organization becomes easier when survival depends upon cooperation. The people of Egypt learned this lesson long ago. Near one canal, a group of workers uses wooden tools to clear accumulated mud. Sweat forms on their skin. The work is repetitive. Yet they continue steadily. Nobody rushes. The pace remains measured. The task will take time. Time is expected. Nearby, water flows gently through the channel. The sound is soothing. A constant reminder of why the work matters. Further downstream, fishermen prepare nets. Fishing contributes another important source of food. The Nile offers abundance to those who understand its rhythms. Fish move with the seasons. Experienced fishermen know where to cast nets. They know when certain catches become more likely. Knowledge gathered over generations shapes every decision. Many fishermen begin before sunrise. The river is often calm during these hours. Mist sometimes hovers above the surface. The world feels peaceful. Only the sound of water breaking against wooden boats interrupts the silence. Fishing requires patience. Long stretches of waiting. Careful observation. Quiet concentration. These qualities fit naturally within the slower pace of ancient life. The fishermen become part of the river itself. Watching. Listening. Waiting. Elsewhere, merchants begin preparing for travel. Trade forms another important thread connecting Egypt together. Goods move constantly through the land. Grain. Pottery. Cloth. Tools. Oil. Wood. Stone. Many resources must travel significant distances before reaching those who need them. The Nile serves as a natural highway. Boats carry cargo north and south. The river reduces the difficulty of transportation. A journey that would be exhausting across desert terrain becomes far easier on water. This advantage encourages organization. Schedules emerge. Deliveries are expected. Routes become familiar. Trade networks strengthen over time. At a small riverside dock, workers load baskets onto a cargo vessel. Each basket must be counted. Each shipment must be tracked. Mistakes could create shortages elsewhere. Accuracy matters. Nearby, a scribe sits beneath a shaded shelter. His reed brush moves carefully across papyrus. Numbers appear. Names are recorded. Quantities are noted. The work may seem ordinary. Yet countless administrative tasks like this help maintain order throughout the kingdom. Ancient Egypt relied heavily upon information. Officials needed to know how much grain existed, how many workers were available, which supplies had arrived, which projects required attention. Scribes transformed daily activities into written records. Their work created memory for the state. A harvest might end. A shipment might arrive. A worker might complete a task. But the written record remained. This ability to preserve information strengthened organization across generations. As morning becomes afternoon, workshops reach their busiest hours. Potters shape clay on spinning wheels. The air smells of wet earth and kill smoke. Rows of unfinished vessels wait patiently to dry. Each piece follows familiar techniques learned through years of practice. In another workshop, carpenters smooth wooden surfaces using simple tools. Shavings collect on floors. The scent of wood fills the room. Nearby, apprentices observe experienced craftsmen. Learning happens through repetition, observation, practice. Small corrections made over time. Formal classrooms are rare. Daily work becomes education. Skills pass naturally from one generation to the next. This steady transfer of knowledge contributes greatly to stability. When children grow into adults, they already understand many responsibilities. They know how tasks should be performed. They know community expectations. They understand routines that have existed for decades, sometimes centuries. The result is continuity. Life changes slowly. Traditions endure. By midday, sunlight pours down from a cloudless sky. The heat becomes powerful. Stone surfaces grow hot to the touch. Dust hangs in the air. Workers seek shade whenever possible. The pace slows slightly. Bodies conserve energy. Meals are shared. Water is consumed carefully. Rest becomes important. Even these pauses fit within organized patterns. Experienced workers understand the dangers of exhaustion. They know the climate well. Generations have taught practical lessons about surviving under the Egyptian sun. A laborer sits beneath a palm tree. He eats bread and onions. Nearby, fellow workers do the same. Conversation remains quiet. Nobody feels the need to rush. The work will continue soon enough. For a brief moment, they simply rest. Looking out across the fields, one can see evidence of countless organized efforts working together. Irrigation channels, storage buildings, roads, villages, boats moving along the river. None of these appeared by accident. Each required planning, cooperation, maintenance, patience. The remarkable organization of Egypt emerges not from a single decision but from millions of small actions repeated over long periods of time. As afternoon continues, shadows slowly begin stretching across the landscape. The worst heat gradually fades. A gentle breeze moves through fields of grain. Workers return to unfinished tasks. Boats continue their journeys. Workshops remain busy. Yet a subtle shift has begun. Evening approaches. The day is preparing to close. And throughout Egypt, ordinary people continue following the familiar routines that quietly hold their world together. The afternoon light softens little by little. Across the fields beside the Nile, long shadows stretch over the dark soil. The air remains warm, but the sharp edge of the day's heat has begun to fade. Workers notice the change immediately. Shoulders relax. Breathing becomes easier. The sun no longer feels quite so heavy upon their backs. The land itself seems to exhale. A farmer pauses beside an irrigation channel. Water moves quietly through the narrow trench, reflecting strips of golden sunlight. For a moment he watches the current drift past. The same water has traveled many miles. It has passed villages, fields, fishing boats, and riverbanks crowded with reeds. Without that water, almost nothing around him would exist. The crops standing nearby depend upon it. His family depends upon it. His neighbors depend upon it. The organization of Egypt begins with this simple truth. Water must be managed carefully. For thousands of years, people living along the Nile understood this reality. The river was generous, but its gifts required attention. Fields needed planning. Canals needed maintenance. Labor had to be coordinated. A farmer could not simply wait and hope. The entire system worked because people followed routines. Many of those routines were older than anyone could remember. As the afternoon slowly drifts toward evening, workers continue moving through the fields. Some inspect young crops. Others repair damaged sections of irrigation channels. A few gather tools left earlier in the day. The pace remains steady. Nobody rushes. The work unfolds according to familiar patterns. Nearby, a boy follows his father between rows of growing plants. He is still young. His hands are small. The tasks given to him are simple. Yet even now he is learning. He watches where his father steps. He learns how water should flow through a field. He learns how to recognize healthy crops. He learns when work begins and when it ends. No formal lesson is taking place. No teacher stands nearby. Knowledge passes naturally through observation. Day after day. Season after season. The organized nature of Egyptian society depends heavily upon this quiet transfer of experience. Children grow up surrounded by routines. Those routines slowly become habits. The habits become traditions. And traditions help hold communities together. Further along the river, a group of fishermen pulls in a net. The movement requires cooperation. Several men work together, carefully lifting the heavy ropes. Water drips from the net as fish flash silver in the fading sunlight. The catch appears promising. Satisfied voices drift across the water. The fish will soon travel toward homes, markets, and kitchens. Even something as simple as fishing connects to larger systems. Food must reach people. People must know where to obtain food. Markets must function regularly. Transportation must remain reliable. Organization links everything together. The fishermen may focus only on today's catch. Yet their labor supports countless others. As evening draws nearer, activity increases along the riverbanks. Boats begin returning home. Cargo vessels move steadily through calm water. Rowers guide their boats toward familiar docks. The river becomes busy once again. Not with the frantic energy of urgency, but with the peaceful movement of daily life reaching its natural conclusion. Workers waiting at the docks prepare to unload supplies. Bundles of reeds, clay jars, grain sacks, fishing equipment, wood, stone. The goods arriving today may be needed tomorrow. Nothing exists separately. Every delivery becomes part of a larger chain of activity. Nearby, scribes continue their work. They remain focused despite the long day. The sun sits lower now. Its light turns golden. Shadows from nearby buildings stretch across the ground. A scribe carefully records quantities of grain entering storage. Another notes supplies delivered by boat. The records must remain accurate. Errors create confusion. Accurate information allows officials, merchants, and workers to plan effectively. Writing may seem quiet compared to farming or construction. Yet it forms one of the invisible foundations of Egyptian organization. The reed brush moves gently across papyrus. One line after another. Small marks carrying large importance. As the years pass, thousands of records accumulate. Together they help preserve order across a vast land. The sounds of workshops slowly begin changing. Earlier, they echoed with the steady rhythm of production. Now workers are finishing tasks. Potters inspect newly shaped vessels. Carpenters organize tools. Weavers complete the final rows of cloth. Apprentices sweep floors and gather materials. The workday is ending. A pleasant tiredness settles over everyone. Inside a pottery workshop, rows of jars stand waiting near a kiln. The clay still holds warmth. The smell of earth lingers in the air. A craftsman runs his hand along the surface of a finished vessel. Years of practice allow him to feel imperfections immediately. His trade demands patience. A rushed pot often becomes a broken pot. Experience teaches him to move carefully. Many Egyptian professions reward consistency more than speed. The culture itself often values steadiness. Tasks performed correctly today make tomorrow easier. This mindset appears everywhere. In workshops, in fields, in homes, along the river. The organization of Egypt is not merely administrative. It is cultural. People learn from childhood that routines matter. Preparation matters. Consistency matters. As evening approaches, market areas become lively once again. Shoppers move between stalls. Merchants arrange goods for sale. Voices fill the air. Yet even these busy scenes contain a certain calm. The market follows patterns understood by everyone. Regular customers know where specific goods can be found. Merchants understand what people need. Relationships form over many years. Trust develops gradually. A woman purchases vegetables for the evening meal. A fisherman exchanges part of his catch. A craftsman acquires materials for future projects. The marketplace serves as both an economic center and a social gathering place. People exchange information as easily as goods. News travels. Stories travel. Advice travels. The organized world of Egypt relies not only on written records but also on human connections. Relationships help communities function smoothly. As sunlight continues fading, cooking fires begin appearing throughout villages. Thin streams of smoke rise into the evening air. The smell of baking bread returns. Vegetables simmer in clay pots. Fresh fish cooks over small fires. Families gather together after long days of work. Inside homes, activity remains constant. Meals require preparation. Water jars need refilling. Sleeping spaces must be arranged. Children help where they can. Older family members offer guidance. The household operates almost like a small organization of its own. Everyone has responsibilities. Everyone contributes. The work inside the home is often less visible than labor in the fields. Yet it remains equally important. Without these efforts, daily life would quickly become difficult. A mother kneads dough while speaking softly with her children. A father repairs a damaged tool near the doorway. A grandmother sorts grain by lamplight. Simple tasks continue long after the workday officially ends. These quiet domestic routines form the foundation of community life. As darkness slowly spreads across the landscape, temperatures begin falling. The relief feels welcome. People step outside to enjoy the cooler air. Children play briefly before becoming sleepy. Neighbors exchange greetings. The atmosphere softens. The intensity of the day gives way to something gentler. The sky turns deep blue. Then darker still. One by one, stars emerge overhead. The same stars watched generations before. The same stars that will watch generations yet to come. For many Egyptians, nighttime offers one of the few opportunities to rest completely. Physical labor consumes much of the day. Bodies grow tired. Muscles ache. Hands become rough from work. Even skilled craftsmen often experience exhaustion after long hours. Rest is not a luxury. It is a necessity. The organized rhythm of life includes recovery as surely as it includes labor. Without rest, tomorrow's work becomes harder. Without recovery, strength gradually fades. People understand this instinctively. The pace of life encourages sleep shortly after darkness arrives. Artificial light remains limited. Most activities naturally slow down after sunset. Oil lamps flicker softly inside homes. The warm glow creates gentle shadows against mud-brick walls. Outside, the village becomes quieter. Conversations grow shorter. Footsteps become less frequent. The marketplace empties. Boats remain tied along the shore. The river continues flowing through the darkness. Always moving. Always present. A young scribe sits outside his home and looks toward the Nile. His work today involved numbers and records. Tomorrow will bring more of the same. He does not find this unusual. Most people expect repetition. Life follows cycles. The flood returns. The crops grow. The harvest arrives. The records continue. The boats travel. The bread bakes. The children learn. The seasons change. Then the cycle begins again. Far from feeling burdensome, this repetition creates stability. People know what tomorrow will likely bring. That certainty provides comfort. In a world shaped by nature, predictability becomes valuable. The organized structure of Egyptian life helps reduce uncertainty. Families can prepare. Communities can cooperate. Resources can be managed. The result is a society capable of enduring for centuries. Not because every day is dramatic, but because most days are ordinary. Order is built through ordinary days. Thousands of them. Millions of them. As the evening deepens, the village settles into silence. A few distant voices drift across the darkness. Somewhere nearby, water laps gently against a riverbank. The scent of cooling earth fills the air. Palm trees sway softly beneath the night breeze. Inside homes, families prepare for sleep. Children close their eyes. Workers stretch tired muscles. Oil lamps are extinguished one by one. Darkness returns. The stars shine brightly above the Nile. The river glimmers beneath the moonlight. And once again, ancient Egypt rests within the quiet embrace of another peaceful night, while the steady routines that shape its organized world wait patiently for dawn. Night settles fully across the Nile Valley. The last voices fade from narrow village streets. Oil lamps disappear one by one behind small windows. The darkness becomes gentle rather than empty. It wraps itself around mud-brick homes, quiet courtyards, sleeping animals, and rows of fields stretching toward the river. Above it all, the stars shine clearly. The desert sky is vast. Without the glow of modern lights, the heavens appear endless. Countless points of light scatter across the darkness. Many Egyptians spend their entire lives beneath this same sky, watching the familiar stars move slowly through the seasons. For generations, people have looked upward and found comfort in their predictability. The stars rise. The stars travel. The stars return. Just like the river. Just like the harvest. Just like the routines of everyday life. The organized world of ancient Egypt depends upon things that can be counted on. As midnight passes, the air becomes cooler. The heat trapped inside walls slowly escapes into the night. A faint breeze drifts through open doorways. Somewhere near the riverbank, reeds rustle softly. Most people remain deeply asleep. Their bodies recover from the demands of labor. A builder who spent the day hauling stone now rests quietly beside his family. A fisherman who rose before dawn lies motionless on a woven mat. A baker who spent hours beside a hot oven finally enjoys the coolness of the night. The entire village seems to breathe together. Slow. Steady. Peaceful. Tomorrow's responsibilities can wait until morning. Yet even while people sleep, the systems supporting Egyptian life continue working quietly in the background. Stored grain rests safely inside granaries. Boats remain secured at their docks. Canals hold water for future use. Records sit protected inside administrative buildings. The organization of Egypt does not disappear at night. It simply becomes still. Like a great machine at rest. Waiting for sunrise. Hours pass. The stars slowly shift overhead. Far to the east, darkness eventually begins losing its strength. The first hints of dawn appear almost unnoticed. A faint silver line touches the horizon. The world remains quiet. But change is coming. Soon another day will begin. And with it, thousands of familiar routines. One of the first people to wake is an elderly farmer. Age has changed his body. His movements are slower now. His hands show the marks of decades spent working the soil. Deep lines cross his face. His shoulders carry the memory of countless harvests. Yet his habits remain unchanged. Long before sunrise, he rises from sleep. He steps outside. The air feels cool against his skin. For a few moments he simply stands in silence. The village remains dark. The river lies calm. Birds have not yet begun singing. These quiet moments before dawn are among the most peaceful in all of Egypt. Soon enough, the sounds of labor will return. For now, the world belongs to stillness. The farmer looks toward the Nile. His entire life has revolved around that river. His father depended upon it. His grandfather depended upon it. His children depend upon it now. The river connects generations together. Its rhythms shape every stage of life. As more people awaken, activity slowly spreads through the village. Doors open. Footsteps appear. Water jars are carried. Cooking fires are prepared. The smell of smoke begins rising into the cool morning air. Inside one home, a young mother starts preparing bread. The work is familiar. She has performed these tasks countless times before. Grain is measured. Flour is mixed. Dough is kneaded. Each movement follows patterns learned years ago. There is comfort in repetition. The hands know what to do. The mind does not need to struggle. Ancient Egyptian life often operates this way. Much of the day consists of tasks repeated so many times that they become almost effortless. This repetition contributes to organization. People rarely need detailed instructions. They already understand the rhythm. Children observe these routines from an early age. They grow up surrounded by examples. Learning happens naturally. As dawn spreads across the land, the Nile begins reflecting shades of gold and pink. The river appears almost magical in these early moments. Mist rises gently from the surface. Fishing boats emerge as dark silhouettes against the growing light. Birds glide low above the water. The entire landscape seems to awaken together. Soon, workers begin moving toward their daily responsibilities. Some head toward fields. Others toward workshops. Others toward docks and marketplaces. The movement feels almost effortless. Everyone knows where they need to be. Everyone understands what must be done. This is one of the hidden strengths of a highly organized society. People spend less energy deciding what comes next. The structure already exists. A young laborer walks toward a construction site. Dust gathers around his sandals. The road beneath his feet is familiar. He has traveled this path many times before. Construction projects in ancient Egypt often require large groups of workers. Stone must be transported. Materials must be organized. Tools must be maintained. Food must be supplied. Schedules must be coordinated. Even relatively simple projects involve many moving parts. Without careful planning, confusion would quickly appear. The laborer reaches the site shortly after sunrise. Other workers are already gathering. Some carry tools. Others unload supplies. Supervisors move among the workforce, ensuring preparations proceed smoothly. There is no frantic rushing. No loud urgency. The day unfolds according to established routines. Organization creates efficiency. Efficiency reduces waste. Over generations, these habits become deeply rooted. Nearby, another group of workers repairs a section of canal. The task requires patience. Mud must be removed. Walls must be reinforced. Water flow must be monitored carefully. At first glance, the work seems ordinary. Yet the canal represents something much larger. It is part of a network supporting agriculture across the region. A damaged canal affects nearby fields. Poor harvests affect food supplies. Food shortages affect entire communities. Because everything connects, maintenance becomes extremely important. Ancient Egyptians devote considerable effort to preventing problems before they occur. Preparation is often easier than repair. This practical wisdom appears throughout society. Granaries store surplus grain. Canals receive regular maintenance. Records track resources. Families preserve supplies. People plan ahead whenever possible. Preparation helps create stability. And stability helps create order. As morning progresses, the countryside fills with activity. Farmers guide animals through fields. Workers transport baskets of produce. Boats move steadily along the Nile. The landscape feels alive but not hurried. Life follows a rhythm that has developed over centuries. Even the sounds seem familiar. The scrape of wooden tools. The splash of water. The distant voices of workers. The creaking of boats. The fluttering of birds among reeds. Together they create the soundtrack of ordinary Egyptian life. Near one village, children accompany adults on simple errands. A boy helps carry vegetables. A girl assists with water jars. Small responsibilities prepare them for future roles. Ancient Egyptian society depends heavily upon gradual learning. Children are rarely separated from the daily work of life. Instead, they grow up surrounded by it. They see how bread is made. They watch how crops are planted. They observe how tools are repaired. The lessons arrive naturally through experience. As years pass, competence develops quietly. This system allows knowledge to move smoothly between generations. The organization of society remains strong because every generation inherits practical skills from the one before. By late morning, the sun begins climbing higher. Heat slowly returns to the land. Shadows shorten. Workers adjust their pace. Water becomes increasingly important. The Nile continues providing relief. Its presence influences every part of the landscape. Villages cluster near its banks. Fields spread outward from its waters. Roads connect communities along its course. Trade follows its path. Communication follows its path. Life follows its path. The river is not simply a source of water. It is the central thread weaving Egyptian society together. A merchant standing beside a dock watches cargo being loaded onto a boat. The process follows a careful sequence. Goods are counted. Containers are inspected. Records are updated. The merchant checks each step patiently. Mistakes can be costly. Accuracy matters. The success of trade depends upon reliability. Customers expect deliveries. Communities depend upon supplies. The organized systems supporting commerce help ensure that resources reach their destinations. The boat eventually pushes away from shore. Rowers settle into a steady rhythm. The vessel glides across the calm water. Another small piece of Egypt's vast network begins moving once again. And as the sun continues rising over the Nile Valley, countless other routines unfold in villages, workshops, fields, and riverbanks throughout the land, each one contributing quietly to the remarkable order that shapes everyday life in ancient Egypt. The boat moves steadily along the Nile. Its wooden hull cuts softly through the water, leaving gentle ripples that spread across the river's surface. The rowers settle into an easy rhythm. Their movements are practiced and familiar. They do not need to speak much. Each man understands his task. The morning sun reflects across the water like scattered gold. Along the riverbanks, life continues unfolding. Farmers work in nearby fields. Children follow narrow paths between homes. Fishermen tend to nets drying in the sunlight. Palm trees sway gently in the warm breeze. Everything seems connected by the river. And in many ways, it is. Ancient Egypt stretches for hundreds of miles along this ribbon of water. Villages separated by great distances still share the same river, the same agricultural cycles, and many of the same daily routines. This shared rhythm helps create unity. People may never travel far from their homes. They may never meet most of their fellow Egyptians. Yet their lives often follow remarkably similar patterns. The Nile quietly ties them together. As the cargo boat continues its journey, the merchant aboard reviews a clay tablet containing notes from previous transactions. The information is simple. Amounts, dates, destinations, names. Yet these small details matter greatly. Organization often depends upon remembering things accurately. A shipment promised must arrive. A debt recorded must be tracked. A delivery expected must be prepared for. Across Egypt, countless ordinary records help keep daily life functioning smoothly. Not every form of organization is dramatic. Most of it is quiet, invisible, hidden within routines. The boat passes another vessel traveling in the opposite direction. The crews exchange brief greetings. Then both continue onward. Traffic along the Nile has become a familiar sight over generations. Large cargo boats, fishing boats, passenger vessels, small rafts carrying local supplies. The river serves as a road, a marketplace, and a lifeline all at once. The movement of goods depends heavily upon it. Without the Nile, transportation would be far more difficult. The surrounding deserts create natural barriers. Travel over land can be exhausting. The river offers a smoother path. This natural advantage encourages planning and coordination. Communities develop around river traffic. Trade becomes more reliable. Communication becomes easier. As a result, organization spreads more effectively throughout the kingdom. Meanwhile, back in one of the riverside villages, the day grows warmer. The morning coolness has disappeared. Sunlight now shines brightly across rooftops and courtyards. Inside a small home, a woman carefully sorts grain. She sits near the doorway where a faint breeze occasionally enters. The task requires patience. Small stones and unwanted pieces must be removed. Her hands move steadily through the basket. The work may seem simple. Yet it helps protect the quality of the family's food. Many daily responsibilities in ancient Egypt involve similar attention to detail. Small efforts prevent larger problems later. A loose roof tile repaired today prevents damage tomorrow. A canal cleared this week protects crops next month. A carefully stored supply of grain helps a family survive difficult seasons. Preparation appears again and again throughout Egyptian life. People learn to think ahead. The environment encourages it. The annual flood arrives according to its own schedule. Harvests follow their own timeline. Food must last between growing seasons. Because nature operates in cycles, people learn to organize themselves around those cycles. A child watching his mother sort grain may not understand all of this. He simply sees another daily task. Yet through observation, he absorbs important lessons. Patience, carefulness, responsibility. These values pass quietly from one generation to the next. Nearby, an elderly grandmother repairs a woven basket. Her fingers move slowly but skillfully. Years of experience guide every motion. The basket has served the family well. Repairing it takes far less effort than replacing it. Ancient Egyptians often maintained possessions carefully. Resources require labor to produce. Waste is avoided whenever possible. Tools are repaired. Clothing is mended. Containers are reused. This practical approach helps households remain stable. The organized world of Egypt is built partly upon such habits. Far across the village, a group of scribes gathers beneath a shaded structure. The heat outside grows stronger by the hour. Papyrus sheets rest neatly beside them. Ink containers sit nearby. One scribe reviews grain records from several villages. Another calculates supplies allocated to workers. A third copies information onto fresh documents. The atmosphere is calm, focused, methodical. Writing has become one of the most powerful tools of organization. A spoken message may be forgotten. A written record can endure. Years later, someone may still consult the information. The ability to preserve knowledge changes how society functions. Records allow large projects to be coordinated. Resources can be tracked. Responsibilities can be assigned. Plans can extend beyond a single day. The scribes understand the importance of their work. Even if their tasks seem quiet compared to the physical labor happening elsewhere. Outside, the sun climbs higher. Heat shimmers above the ground. Dust rises beneath passing feet. Many workers feel sweat forming along their necks and shoulders. Summer in Egypt can be unforgiving. The climate shapes daily routines just as surely as the river does. People learn when to work hardest. They learn when to rest. They learn how to conserve energy. Ignoring the heat can be dangerous. Respecting it becomes part of everyday wisdom. A group of canal workers pauses briefly beneath a tree. They drink water and sit quietly. No one speaks much. The shade itself feels valuable. Their muscles welcome the break. Soon they will return to work. For now, they enjoy a few peaceful moments away from the sun. Across Egypt, similar scenes unfold everywhere. People understand the rhythm of labor and rest. Neither can be ignored. The organized nature of society includes recovery as well as effort. As midday approaches, the sounds of activity soften slightly. Work continues, but at a slower pace. The heat encourages patience. Animals seek shade. People move more carefully. The entire landscape seems to slow down. Even the birds become quieter. The Nile, however, continues flowing steadily. Its surface sparkles beneath the sunlight. A fisherman sits beneath a simple shelter near the shore. His nets have already been checked. For now, he waits. Patience forms a large part of fishing. Hours may pass with little activity. The fisherman does not seem troubled by this. He watches the water, listens to the wind, observes the changing light. Life beside the Nile teaches people to pay attention. The river constantly offers subtle signs. Water levels change. Fish movements shift. Seasonal patterns emerge. Those who notice such details often prosper. Experience becomes valuable knowledge. Over time, entire communities build traditions around these observations. Elsewhere, in a busy workshop, a young apprentice struggles with a task. His hands are still inexperienced. A piece of work does not meet expectations. The master craftsman notices immediately. Yet his response is calm. He demonstrates the proper technique once more. The apprentice watches carefully. Then tries again. Learning requires repetition. Mistakes are expected. Skills develop slowly. This patient approach appears throughout Egyptian society. People understand that mastery takes time. Whether farming, writing, fishing, building, or crafting, knowledge grows gradually. Organization benefits from this stability. Workers become highly skilled through years of consistent practice. The quality of work improves. Communities become more reliable. Systems become stronger. As afternoon begins approaching, shadows slowly return. They remain short for now, but their presence signals change. The hottest hours will not last forever. Workers continue their tasks with steady determination. A farmer examines crops. A merchant reviews supplies. A builder measures stone. A baker prepares dough for the evening. A scribe updates records. Thousands upon thousands of individual actions unfold across the Nile Valley. Most seem small. Most will never be remembered by history. Yet together they create something remarkable. A civilization sustained not merely by rulers or monuments, but by ordinary people performing ordinary tasks with consistency and care. The organization of ancient Egypt lives within these daily routines. Within the steady hands of workers. Within the quiet discipline of families. Within the patience of craftsmen. Within the observations of farmers. Within the records of scribes. And as the afternoon sunlight begins its slow journey westward across the sky, another peaceful day continues unfolding beside the timeless waters of the Nile. The afternoon sun drifts slowly across the Egyptian sky. Its light falls gently over fields of grain, over quiet canals, over clusters of mud-brick homes resting beside the Nile. The brightest heat of the day has begun to ease. A faint breeze moves through the reeds along the riverbank, carrying with it the scent of water, earth, and growing plants. For many workers, this is a welcome change. The long hours of labor beneath the sun can be tiring. Shoulders ache. Hands grow rough. Feet become dusty from countless steps. Yet the work continues. Not with urgency. Not with excitement. But with the calm persistence that has shaped life in Egypt for generations. A farmer stands beside a field and studies the crops. The plants sway gently in the breeze. Months earlier, this same land looked very different. The floodwaters had receded. Fresh black soil covered the ground. Seeds were carefully planted. Water channels were maintained. Days of labor followed. Then weeks. Then months. Now the field stands green and healthy. The farmer feels quiet satisfaction. He knows how much effort lies hidden within every successful harvest. The grain growing before him represents planning, patience, cooperation, and time. Nothing about agriculture happens quickly. The organized nature of Egyptian farming develops from this simple reality. Nature follows its own schedule. People must adapt themselves to it. Nearby, another farmer walks slowly along an irrigation ditch. His eyes follow the movement of water. The canal must function properly. A small blockage today could become a larger problem tomorrow. Careful observation prevents trouble before it begins. Many Egyptian workers spend much of their lives doing exactly this. Watching. Checking. Maintaining. Preventing. Large achievements often depend upon countless small acts of attention. The irrigation systems stretching across the Nile Valley are a perfect example. Visitors might admire a successful harvest. Yet few notice the workers who spent months clearing channels, repairing walls, and guiding water where it needed to go. Their labor remains mostly invisible. But without it, the harvest would never arrive. As the afternoon continues, activity remains steady throughout the countryside. In one village, potters work outside their workshops. Rows of clay vessels stand drying beneath the sun. The shapes vary. Some are small enough to hold oil. Others are large enough to store grain. Every household depends upon containers. Water must be carried. Food must be stored. Supplies must be protected. The simple clay jar becomes an essential part of daily life. A potter lifts a newly finished vessel and examines it carefully. Years of experience have trained his eyes. He notices details others might miss. The curve of the rim. The thickness of the walls. The balance of the shape. Craftsmanship develops slowly. Skill grows through repetition. Thousands of similar objects have passed through his hands. Each one teaches a lesson. The organized world of Egypt depends upon specialized workers like him. Everyone contributes something different. Farmers grow food. Builders create structures. Potters produce containers. Weavers make cloth. Scribes keep records. Boatmen transport goods. The system functions because each person performs a role within a larger network. Along the river, fishermen continue their work. The Nile remains busy throughout the day. Boats glide across its surface. Some carry cargo. Others transport travelers. Many support fishing activities. The river connects distant communities in a way few other features could. A message can travel. A shipment can move. A family can relocate. The water creates connections. And connections help create organization. Farther downstream, a merchant waits beside a dock. His shipment has not yet arrived. He sits patiently beneath a shaded shelter. Waiting is a familiar part of life. Ancient Egypt moves at the pace of nature. Boats depend upon wind and current. Harvests depend upon seasons. Construction depends upon labor. Few things happen instantly. Patience becomes an important skill. The merchant watches the river quietly. He knows the boat will arrive when it arrives. In the meantime, there is little reason to worry. Nearby, workers unload cargo from another vessel. Baskets pass from hand to hand. Supplies are sorted carefully. Records are updated. The process follows familiar routines. Everyone understands what must be done. The work unfolds smoothly because the system has been practiced many times before. Organization often appears effortless when people know their responsibilities well. Yet reaching that point requires years of experience. Across Egypt, generations have refined these routines. Small improvements accumulate over time. Traditions grow stronger. Communities become more efficient. As shadows begin lengthening, the atmosphere slowly changes. The land feels softer. Less intense. The worst heat has passed. Workers notice renewed energy. Conversations become slightly more common. The day is moving toward evening. In a weaving workshop, several women sit together producing cloth. Their fingers move steadily across the looms. The work requires concentration. Patterns must remain consistent. Threads must remain properly aligned. The process can take many hours. Yet there is something peaceful about the repetition. The rhythmic movement creates a sense of calm. Similar scenes unfold in countless workshops throughout Egypt. Work and routine blend together. Skills become habits. Habits become traditions. Traditions become part of the culture itself. A young apprentice sits nearby, watching carefully. She studies every movement, every technique, every correction. Learning often happens through observation. Ancient Egyptian children grow up surrounded by skilled adults. They absorb knowledge gradually. Day by day. Year by year. There is rarely a single moment when a child suddenly becomes an expert. Instead, understanding accumulates slowly. Like water filling a canal. The process is steady. Patient. Reliable. This method helps preserve knowledge across generations. Many techniques remain unchanged for decades. Some survive for centuries. The organized structure of society depends upon this continuity. People trust methods that have proven successful. Change comes slowly. Stability becomes normal. Outside the workshop, children play beneath the shade of a tree. Their laughter drifts through the warm air. For a little while, they enjoy freedom from responsibilities. Yet even play often contains lessons. They imitate adults. Pretend to farm. Pretend to fish. Pretend to trade goods. Through games, they explore the world around them. The future workers of Egypt are already learning. Not through formal instruction, but through daily life itself. As evening approaches, cooking fires begin appearing once again. Thin trails of smoke rise above rooftops. Familiar scents spread through the village. Fresh bread. Roasted vegetables. Fish cooking over open flames. Meals provide more than nourishment. They create opportunities for families to gather. Stories are shared. Advice is offered. Experiences from the day are discussed. Family life forms an important part of Egypt's organization. Households serve as centers of learning, cooperation, and support. Responsibilities are distributed among family members. Everyone contributes according to age and ability. This shared effort helps strengthen communities. In one home, a father repairs a wooden tool while his children watch. The handle has loosened. A small crack needs attention. The repair takes only a short time. Yet the lesson lasts much longer. The children observe the value of maintenance. Taking care of possessions. Solving problems early. Avoiding unnecessary waste. Such habits appear throughout Egyptian society. Practical wisdom passes naturally between generations. The evening light becomes golden. Long shadows stretch across roads and fields. The Nile reflects the changing colors of the sky. Boats begin returning toward shore. Workers finish final tasks. Animals are guided back toward shelters. The pace of life gradually softens. A feeling of completion settles over the land. Another day has nearly ended. Another day of planting, building, recording, transporting, cooking, repairing, learning. Thousands of ordinary activities have taken place. Most will never appear in official records. Most will never be remembered individually. Yet together they sustain an entire civilization. The greatness of ancient Egypt does not rest only in temples or monuments. It also lives in these quiet routines. In the farmer checking water levels. In the potter shaping clay. In the scribe recording supplies. In the mother baking bread. In the fisherman mending nets. The organization of Egypt emerges from millions of such moments. As the sun slowly approaches the western horizon, warm light washes across the Nile Valley. The river glows softly. Reeds sway in the evening breeze. Villages prepare for another peaceful night. And throughout the land, ordinary people begin leaving behind the labor of the day, carrying with them the quiet satisfaction that comes from work completed and responsibilities fulfilled. The sun sinks lower toward the western horizon. Its golden light spreads across the Nile Valley, touching fields, canals, boats, and village walls with a warm glow. The harsh brightness of midday is gone now. In its place comes the softer light of evening, a time many people quietly welcome after a long day of labor. The river seems calmer at this hour. Not because it has changed, but because the world around it has begun to slow. Boats return toward familiar docks. Workers finish final tasks. Animals are guided home. Cooking fires flicker to life one after another. A peaceful feeling settles across the landscape. Near the edge of a village, a farmer walks home carrying a simple wooden tool over his shoulder. His sandals leave faint marks in the dusty road. The day's work has been long. His muscles feel tired. His skin carries the warmth of the sun. Yet his pace remains steady. He knows tomorrow will bring more work. That thought does not trouble him. The rhythm of labor has become a natural part of life. In ancient Egypt, many people spend nearly every day following familiar routines. These routines provide structure. And structure provides comfort. The farmer passes neighbors returning from their own responsibilities. A fisherman carries nets. A builder walks beside fellow workers. A merchant closes a storage room before heading home. Each person has contributed something different. Yet together they have helped keep their community functioning smoothly. Organization does not belong to one profession alone. It exists because many different people cooperate without always realizing it. As the farmer reaches home, the smell of baking bread drifts through the doorway. Inside, Preparations for the evening meal are already underway. Clay pots sit near the fire. Freshly ground grain has become dough. Water jars stand ready against the wall. The household feels busy, but not hurried. Everyone knows what needs to be done. Years of repetition have created a natural order. A child gathers kindling. Another helps arrange bowls. An older family member checks the food. Responsibilities flow quietly between family members. No one person does everything. The household operates through cooperation. Much like the larger society around it. Throughout Egypt, countless homes follow similar patterns. The details may differ, but the overall rhythm remains familiar. Work. Preparation. Meal. Rest. Then another day begins. These cycles repeat so consistently that they become part of the landscape itself. As darkness slowly approaches, activity continues near the river. Some fishermen remain at work. Evening can be a productive time on the Nile. The water reflects deep shades of orange and gold. Birds move among the reeds. A gentle breeze travels across the surface. The sounds of the village become softer with each passing moment. One fisherman sits quietly in his boat. His net rests nearby. He watches the water patiently. Fishing often rewards those who can wait. The river teaches patience. It moves at its own pace. It follows its own schedule. People living beside it learn to do the same. Generations of Egyptians have shaped their lives around this understanding. Nature cannot be rushed. The flood arrives when it arrives. The crops grow when they grow. The fish appear when they appear. Organization means working with these rhythms rather than fighting against them. Farther along the riverbank, several boys help pull a small boat ashore. Their work is simple. Yet it matters. The boat will remain secure during the night. The ropes must be tied properly. The vessel must be protected from drifting away. Small responsibilities like these appear everywhere in Egyptian life. Many seem insignificant on their own. Yet together they create reliability. And reliability creates stability. A village functions well when everyone performs small tasks consistently. As twilight deepens, the marketplace begins closing. Merchants gather remaining goods. Storage rooms are secured. Shelters are covered. The busy energy of the day slowly disappears. Soon the market will be quiet until morning. Earlier, people arrived seeking food, tools, cloth, and supplies. Now only a few final customers remain. The marketplace itself represents another example of Egyptian organization. Trade depends upon trust. People expect goods to be available. Merchants expect customers to arrive. Suppliers expect deliveries. These relationships develop over many years. Regular patterns create confidence. Confidence allows commerce to flourish. Near one stall, an elderly merchant carefully counts stored goods before locking them away. The habit is automatic. He has done it thousands of times. Experience teaches him the value of careful records. What exists today must still exist tomorrow. Accuracy protects both business and community. Across Egypt, similar habits support daily life. People count, measure, record, check, maintain. These actions may seem ordinary. Yet they form the invisible framework holding society together. As darkness spreads across the land, stars begin appearing overhead. One by one they emerge against the deepening blue sky. The first stars are often the brightest. Soon countless others follow. The sight never grows old. Ancient Egyptians spend their entire lives beneath these skies. The stars become familiar companions. Farmers notice seasonal changes. Sailors use them for guidance. Families simply enjoy their beauty. Looking upward, people find comfort in their consistency. The heavens move according to patterns. Just as life on earth does. Inside homes, evening meals begin. Families gather together. The atmosphere becomes quieter, more relaxed. The demands of labor are temporarily behind them. Bread is shared. Vegetables are served. Fish may appear if the day's catch has been successful. The food is often simple. Yet after a day of hard work, simplicity feels satisfying. Children speak about small events from the day. Adults exchange observations. Advice is offered. Stories are told. Family meals provide more than nourishment. They strengthen connections. They pass knowledge. They preserve traditions. Much of Egyptian culture survives through these everyday interactions. A young child learns not only from work but also from listening. Listening to parents, grandparents, older siblings, neighbors. Wisdom often arrives through conversation rather than instruction. The organized character of society depends partly upon these exchanges. Values pass quietly from generation to generation. Respect for routine. Respect for preparation. Respect for responsibility. These lessons become woven into daily life. Outside, the village grows steadily quieter. The sounds of cooking begin fading. Footsteps become less frequent. Doors close. Lamps glow softly behind small windows. Their warm light flickers against mud-brick walls. The contrast between the darkness outside and the gentle light within creates a feeling of safety. Many workers now feel the full weight of the day. Fatigue settles into tired muscles. Hands that spent hours lifting, carrying, shaping, rowing, or writing finally come to rest. Sleep approaches naturally. Physical labor often leaves little room for sleeplessness. Bodies welcome recovery. Near the edge of the village, a watchman remains awake. His duties continue after others sleep. He moves slowly through the darkness, observing, listening, ensuring that everything remains secure. Even during the night, certain responsibilities continue. Organization does not disappear after sunset. It simply becomes quieter. Granaries still protect stored grain. Boats remain tied at their docks. Animals rest within shelters. Records remain safely stored. The system supporting daily life continues standing silently in the background. Above the Nile, the moon rises. Its pale light reflects across the water. The river glimmers softly beneath the stars. Reeds sway in the night breeze. Somewhere in the distance, a bird calls briefly before silence returns. The village settles deeper into sleep. Families rest inside their homes. Workers recover their strength. Children dream beneath the same sky their ancestors knew. Tomorrow will bring another dawn. Another cycle of work. Another day of planting, building, recording, trading, fishing, cooking, and learning. Yet for now, none of those tasks demand attention. The Nile flows quietly through the darkness. The stars continue their slow journey overhead. And ancient Egypt rests peacefully within the gentle order that has shaped life along the river for countless generations. The moon hangs high above the Nile. Its pale light stretches across the water in a long shimmering path. The river moves quietly through the darkness, carrying with it the same calm presence that has guided life in Egypt for generations beyond memory. Most of the village sleeps. The streets are empty now. Dusty pathways that were crowded with workers only hours earlier lie silent beneath the stars. Workshops stand closed. Market stalls rest in darkness. Boats tied along the shore rock gently against their ropes. The night feels peaceful, almost timeless. A cool breeze drifts through the reeds near the water's edge. Palm leaves whisper softly overhead. The sounds are faint enough that they seem part of the silence itself. Inside one small mud-brick home, a family sleeps together on woven mats. The father spent the day working in the fields. The mother baked bread, carried water, and managed the household. The children helped where they could before finally falling asleep. Now everyone rests. Their breathing is slow and steady. Outside, the stars continue their silent journey across the sky. For countless ordinary Egyptians, life follows this rhythm year after year. Work fills the daylight. Rest fills the darkness. The balance between the two becomes one of the foundations of daily life. The organized nature of Egyptian society depends not only on labor but also on recovery. Bodies need sleep. Muscles need time to heal. Minds need quiet. Without rest, even the most carefully planned routines begin to fail. Ancient people understood this through experience. The land itself encouraged a rhythm of effort and recovery. Hours pass quietly. The moon slowly travels westward. The night deepens. Then gradually, almost imperceptibly, the darkness begins to change. Far beyond the eastern horizon, the first signs of another morning begin to gather. The stars nearest the horizon start to fade. The air feels slightly different. The world is preparing to wake once more. Long before sunrise, movement returns. An elderly baker rises from sleep. His routine rarely changes. For many years, he has awakened before most of the village. The bread must be ready when people begin their day. That responsibility shapes his schedule. He steps outside briefly. The air is cool. The village remains mostly quiet. A few distant lamps glow faintly. The baker enjoys these moments. There is something peaceful about being awake before everyone else. The world feels calm, unhurried. Soon he returns indoors and begins preparing for the day ahead. Grain must be ground. Dough must be mixed. The ovens must be heated. The work starts long before the first customer arrives. This hidden preparation exists throughout Egyptian life. Many visible activities depend upon unseen labor happening beforehand. A successful harvest depends upon months of preparation. A finished building depends upon years of planning. A fresh loaf of bread depends upon work that begins before dawn. Organization often hides beneath the surface. People notice the results, but not always the effort that made those results possible. As dawn slowly approaches, more homes become active. Doors open quietly. Water jars are lifted. Cooking fires are rekindled. The village begins awakening one household at a time. The first birds appear among the reeds. Their calls drift through the growing light. Nearby, fishermen prepare boats for another day on the Nile. The river remains calm. Mist hovers above the surface in thin silver layers. The scene feels almost dreamlike. One fisherman checks his nets carefully. Small repairs are made where needed. A torn net left unattended could become a larger problem later. Again and again, Egyptian life reveals the same lesson. Maintenance matters. Preparation matters. Attention to small details matters. The most organized systems are often supported by ordinary habits repeated consistently over time. The fishermen push their boats into the water. Wood creaks softly. Ripples spread outward. Soon the vessels begin gliding through the morning mist. Their silhouettes move quietly across the river. The Nile has witnessed the scene countless times before. Generation after generation. Century after century. As daylight spreads across the land, the colors of Egypt slowly emerge. The river reflects shades of gold and pale blue. Green fields brighten beneath the rising sun. Mud-brick walls glow warmly in the morning light. The world feels fresh. New. Even though the routines remain familiar. That is one of the comforting qualities of organized life. Each day brings repetition. Yet each day also feels slightly different. The same road looks different beneath changing light. The same river reflects a different sky. The same field grows a little more with each passing week. A young farmer walks toward his land carrying simple tools. His father walks beside him. Neither speaks very much. The morning itself feels enough. They have followed this path many times. Their footsteps know the way. Ahead of them, Irrigation channels stretch across the landscape. The water inside moves steadily toward the fields. These canals represent generations of effort. People dug them, maintained them, expanded them, repaired them. The work never truly ends. Water systems require constant care, yet their benefits are enormous. Without organized irrigation, much of Egypt's agriculture would struggle. The canals transform the landscape. They distribute the river's life-giving water where it is needed most. The young farmer studies the channels carefully. His father points toward a section requiring attention. A small repair will be necessary soon. The lesson is simple. Problems are easier to solve when they are still small. This practical wisdom appears throughout Egyptian society. A damaged tool is repaired before it breaks completely. A leaking roof is fixed before heavy damage occurs. A canal is maintained before crops suffer. The culture encourages prevention rather than crisis. Such habits help create long-term stability. As the morning progresses, workers spread across the countryside. The fields become active. Voices drift through the air. Animals move between plots of land. The sounds of labor gradually replace the silence of dawn. Yet even at its busiest, ancient Egypt rarely feels rushed. Work unfolds according to established rhythms. People know their responsibilities. Tasks follow familiar patterns. The day moves forward with steady purpose. Near a storage building, several workers begin organizing grain supplies. Large baskets are carried inside. Measurements are checked carefully. Records are updated. Grain storage plays a vital role in Egyptian life. Harvests do not last forever. Food must remain available throughout the year. Successful storage protects communities against uncertainty. The workers understand this importance. Each basket represents security. Future meals. Future survival. The granary itself stands as a symbol of planning ahead. Its walls contain not only grain but also preparation. Preparation for tomorrow. Preparation for next season. Preparation for years that may prove more difficult. Throughout history, societies that plan well often endure. Ancient Egypt becomes remarkably stable in part because so many aspects of life emphasize preparation. Nearby, a scribe arrives carrying writing materials. He settles beneath a shaded area and begins recording information. The work requires concentration. Names, numbers, amounts, dates. Small details fill the page. Each detail contributes to a larger picture. Written records allow resources to be tracked across time. Officials can see what has been stored, what has been distributed, what remains available. The written word becomes a powerful tool for organization. Quiet, unassuming, yet enormously important. As the sun climbs higher into the sky, the village reaches full activity. Workshops open their doors. Merchants arrange goods. Children assist with chores. Boats travel along the river. The landscape feels alive with movement. Still, beneath all the activity lies a remarkable sense of order. Not perfect order. Not rigid order. But the practical order created when people understand their roles and responsibilities. The farmer knows his field. The baker knows his oven. The fisherman knows the river. The scribe knows his records. The potter knows his clay. Each person contributes something essential. Together they create a society capable of enduring for centuries. And as another morning unfolds beneath the warm Egyptian sun, the quiet routines of ordinary people continue shaping one of the most organized civilizations the ancient world would ever know. The morning settles comfortably across the Nile Valley. The sun has climbed above the horizon, though it has not yet reached the fierce brightness that will come later in the day. A gentle warmth spreads over the land. The air still carries traces of coolness from the night, especially near the river where reeds sway softly beside the water. Across the countryside, Daily life is fully underway. Farmers move through their fields. Boatmen guide vessels along the Nile. Craftsmen open workshop doors. Merchants arrange their goods. Children help with simple chores before drifting towards small tasks assigned by their families. Everywhere, familiar routines unfold. To an outsider, these activities might seem ordinary. And they are. Yet it is precisely these ordinary actions that help explain why life in ancient Egypt remained so organized for so long. The strength of the system rests not only in large institutions. It rests in habits. In expectations. In thousands of people quietly doing what they know needs to be done. Near a village surrounded by farmland, a farmer kneels beside a patch of young crops. The soil feels dark and rich beneath his fingers. He examines the plants carefully. Years of experience have taught him what healthy growth should look like. He notices small changes. A leaf that appears weaker than the others. A section of soil that seems slightly drier. A place where water may not be reaching properly. Such observations matter. Good farming depends upon attention. The Nile provides many gifts, but successful harvests still require effort. Fields must be watched. Water must be guided. Problems must be addressed early. The farmer rises and walks toward a nearby canal. The water moves quietly through its narrow path. Sunlight dances across the surface. He studies the flow for a moment. Then he makes a small adjustment using a simple tool. The change takes only a few minutes. Yet small actions like this, repeated across thousands of fields, help sustain an entire civilization. Many of Egypt's greatest achievements begin with such modest efforts. Nearby, another group of workers repairs a section of embankment. The work is slow. Baskets of soil are carried. Loose areas are reinforced. The labor requires patience more than speed. No one appears hurried. The workers understand that careful work often lasts longer than rushed work. This attitude appears throughout Egyptian society. People value reliability. A canal that functions properly year after year is more useful than one completed quickly but poorly. A storage building that protects grain through many seasons is worth the extra effort. Durability matters. The climate encourages it. The environment rewards preparation. As the morning continues, the river remains busy. Several cargo boats travel northward. Others move south. Their sails catch the breeze when conditions allow. When the wind fades, rowers provide steady movement. The Nile acts like a great thread connecting distant communities. Villages separated by many miles remain linked through the water. News travels. Supplies travel. People travel. Ideas travel. The river carries more than cargo. It carries connection. And connection strengthens organization. At a small riverside dock, workers prepare to unload pottery from a transport boat. The jars have traveled from another region. They will soon be exchanged for grain and other goods. Several laborers carefully lift the containers one by one. A supervisor watches nearby. Not because he distrusts the workers, but because organization requires awareness. Someone must know what arrives. Someone must know where it goes. Someone must ensure that plans become reality. The process unfolds calmly. No shouting. No confusion. The workers have done this many times before. Experience creates efficiency. Meanwhile, beneath a shaded shelter not far away, a scribe records the delivery. His reed brush moves steadily across papyrus. The marks appear simple. Yet each line preserves valuable information. Ancient Egypt depends heavily upon memory. But it also depends upon records. Writing allows knowledge to survive beyond a single conversation. A shipment received today can still be verified months later. A harvest measured this season can be compared to the next. The written word becomes one of the quiet pillars supporting order throughout the land. The scribe pauses briefly. He lifts his eyes toward the river. Boats continue moving across the sparkling water. Workers continue carrying supplies. Life continues flowing all around him. Then he returns to his task. One line after another. Patiently. Carefully. The sun climbs higher. The warmth increases. Shadows grow shorter. Across Egypt, workers begin feeling the approach of the hotter hours. Still, activity remains steady. In a weaving workshop, several women sit beside looms producing cloth. The room is filled with soft repetitive sounds. Threads pass through skilled fingers. Patterns emerge slowly. The work requires concentration. One mistake can affect an entire section. Patience becomes essential. An older weaver sits beside a younger apprentice. The apprentice watches closely. Occasionally she attempts a new technique. Sometimes she succeeds. Sometimes she does not. Either way, learning continues. Knowledge in ancient Egypt often moves through observation. Children and apprentices spend years watching experienced workers. Gradually they absorb methods and habits. The process is slow. Yet it creates remarkable continuity. Skills survive because they are practiced constantly. Generation after generation. A basket maker teaches an apprentice. A farmer teaches a child. A mason teaches a laborer. A scribe teaches a student. The chain continues. The organized nature of Egyptian life depends upon this steady transfer of knowledge. Without it, routines would weaken. Traditions would fade. Communities would become less predictable. Instead, experience accumulates. The past quietly guides the present. Outside the workshop, village life continues. A woman carries water from a nearby source. The jar balanced upon her shoulder feels heavy. She has performed this task many times. Water remains essential for cooking, cleaning, and daily living. Obtaining it requires effort. Nothing is taken for granted. Nearby, another woman prepares vegetables for the midday meal. A child assists by gathering small supplies. The household operates like a small community. Responsibilities are shared. Tasks are divided. Everyone contributes. The smooth functioning of a family often depends upon cooperation just as much as a village does. Throughout Egypt, homes become centers of organization. Food is stored. Tools are maintained. Children are taught. Resources are managed. The work may not attract attention from officials or scribes. Yet it remains essential. Without strong households, larger systems would struggle. As the morning approaches midday, the landscape brightens under the increasingly powerful sun. Birds seek shade among trees and reeds. Animals move more slowly. Workers begin planning brief periods of rest. They know what is coming. The hottest part of the day approaches. Generations have taught practical wisdom about surviving the Egyptian climate. People adjust naturally. The rhythm of life changes with the weather. A group of laborers gathers beneath a tree near a construction site. For a short while they sit quietly. Some eat bread. Others drink water. Conversation remains relaxed. No one wastes energy unnecessarily. The work will continue soon. There is no need to rush. This measured pace appears throughout Egyptian life. The culture values persistence more than speed. Tasks are completed steadily. Day after day. Season after season. The results accumulate. Looking across the Nile Valley, one can see countless examples. Fields carefully maintained. Canals repaired year after year. Granaries protecting harvests. Workshops producing reliable goods. Boats transporting supplies. Records preserving information. Families passing knowledge forward. Together these pieces form a larger whole. Not through dramatic effort, but through consistency. As the sun nears its highest point in the sky, the air grows warmer still. The river sparkles brilliantly beneath the light. Fields stretch outward in shades of green and gold. Dust rises softly from roads traveled by workers and animals. The day continues unfolding according to familiar patterns. And throughout the land, ordinary Egyptians carry on with the quiet routines that have helped create one of the most remarkably organized societies in the ancient world. By midday, the sun stands high above the Nile Valley. Its light pours down from a clear blue sky, covering fields, villages, workshops, and riverbanks alike. The heat settles across the land with quiet determination. Stone walls grow warm. Dusty roads shimmer faintly in the distance. Even the breeze seems slower now. For many Egyptians, this is the most demanding part of the day. Work does not stop. But it changes. The pace becomes more measured. People move carefully, conserving strength. Generations have taught them how to live alongside the climate rather than struggle against it. A farmer working near an irrigation channel wipes sweat from his brow and pauses for a moment beneath the shade of a date palm. The cool shadow feels precious. Around him, the fields remain alive with growth. Grain ripples gently whenever a breeze passes through. The sight brings a quiet sense of satisfaction. Months of planning have helped create this moment. The canals were maintained. The seeds were planted. The water was managed. Now the crops continue their slow journey toward harvest. Agriculture in ancient Egypt is never only about physical labor. It is also about timing. Knowing when to plant. Knowing when to irrigate. Knowing when to wait. Patience becomes one of the most valuable skills a farmer can possess. Nature follows its own schedule. The wise farmer learns to follow it as well. Not far away, several workers gather beside a canal carrying baskets filled with soil. The embankment needs strengthening. The task is repetitive. A basket is filled. It is carried. The soil is placed. Then the process begins again. Hour after hour. The work requires endurance more than speed. One worker hums softly to himself. Another focuses on the rhythm of his movements. The canal stretches ahead of them, winding across the landscape. Its waters feed nearby fields. Without canals like this, many crops would struggle. The workers understand their role. Even if no one praises their labor, they know its importance. Much of ancient Egypt depends upon people performing necessary tasks that rarely attract attention. A well-maintained canal. A properly repaired roof. A carefully stored basket of grain. A complete set of records. These quiet achievements help support the larger system. Meanwhile, along the Nile itself, activity continues despite the heat. The river remains the lifeblood of the kingdom. Its waters glitter beneath the midday sun. Several boats drift near the shoreline while fishermen tend to their equipment. One elderly fisherman sits beneath a simple shelter woven from reeds. His net rests beside him. Small repairs occupy his hands. A broken section must be fixed before it grows larger. The work is patient. Methodical. His fingers move carefully through the fibers. Nearby, younger fishermen prepare for future trips. They listen when the older man offers advice. Not because he speaks loudly, but because experience carries value. Knowledge gathered across decades is worth sharing. Ancient Egyptian society often relies upon such exchanges. The oldest members of a community become living libraries of practical wisdom. They remember unusual floods, successful harvests, difficult seasons. They know which methods work, and which do not. Through conversation and example, this knowledge moves forward into the future. As the hours pass, workshop life continues across towns and villages. Inside a carpenter's workshop, the scent of freshly cut wood fills the warm air. Wood is valuable in Egypt. Every piece must be used carefully. Nothing is wasted unnecessarily. The carpenter examines several boards before selecting one for his project. His apprentice watches nearby. The lesson is not spoken. It is demonstrated. The older craftsman runs his hand along the surface. He studies the grain. He checks for imperfections. Only then does he begin working. The apprentice observes every step. Learning happens slowly. One observation at a time. One project at a time. This patient method of education helps preserve quality across generations. Skills remain consistent. Standards remain high. The organization of society benefits from reliable craftsmanship. A tool made properly lasts longer. A boat built carefully travels farther. A storage container shaped correctly protects food more effectively. Small improvements create larger benefits over time. Outside, the heat continues pressing down upon the land. Animals seek shelter where they can. Dogs rest beneath walls. Donkeys stand quietly in shaded corners. Even birds appear less active during the hottest hours. The entire landscape seems to move more slowly. Yet life never fully stops. In a nearby village, women continue preparing food for the afternoon and evening. The smell of bread drifts through narrow streets. Grain is ground. Vegetables are sorted. Clay ovens radiate warmth. Cooking requires planning. Ingredients must be available. Fuel must be gathered. Water must be stored. Meals do not appear by accident. Like so many aspects of Egyptian life, they depend upon preparation. Inside one home, a mother works beside her daughter. The younger girl watches carefully as bread is prepared. Her hands are not yet skilled. But she is learning. The lessons arrive naturally. There is no formal classroom. No written examination. Only observation. Practice. Correction. Then more practice. The knowledge that sustains Egyptian households passes quietly between generations. Over time, the daughter will perform these same tasks herself. And one day she may teach someone else. The chain continues. Across the village, a group of children carries water jars from a nearby source. The jars feel heavy. The walk requires effort. Yet the task is important. Water supports every part of daily life. Cooking. Cleaning. Drinking. Craft production. Agriculture. Everything depends upon it. The children may see only a chore. The adults see something larger. They see responsibility. Learning responsibility early helps prepare young people for adult life. The organized structure of Egyptian society relies upon this gradual development. People are not suddenly expected to understand their duties. They grow into them. Year after year. Task after task. As midday slowly begins yielding to afternoon, the quality of light changes almost imperceptibly. The sun remains bright. But its climb has ended. Shadows begin their slow return. The hottest hours will eventually pass. Workers sense this. Energy gradually returns. A merchant sitting beneath a shaded awning reviews supplies stored in a nearby room. Baskets of grain. Clay jars of oil. Bundles of cloth. Each item represents value. Each item must be tracked carefully. The merchant counts everything methodically. The process takes time. Yet accuracy matters. Mistakes can create shortages. Shortages create problems. Organization helps prevent such difficulties before they appear. The merchant updates his records and nods with quiet satisfaction. Everything appears in order. Elsewhere, along a busy dock, a cargo vessel arrives carrying supplies from another region. Workers move into position. Ropes are secured. Goods are unloaded. The process follows familiar routines developed through years of experience. Nobody needs detailed instructions. Each worker already understands his role. This is one of the hidden advantages of a highly organized society. People know what is expected. Tasks proceed smoothly because expectations remain clear. The boat's cargo gradually disappears into storage buildings nearby. A scribe records the deliveries. A supervisor verifies quantities. Laborers carry supplies. The entire operation functions like many small pieces working together. No single person controls everything. Success depends upon cooperation. As afternoon slowly approaches, a softer breeze moves across the Nile. The river responds with small ripples. Reeds sway gently along the shoreline. The intense stillness of midday begins to fade. The landscape feels as though it is taking a long, slow breath. Across Egypt, millions of small activities continue unfolding. A farmer checks a canal. A potter shapes clay. A fisherman repairs a net. A child carries water. A merchant updates records. A baker prepares dough. Most of these actions will never be remembered individually. Yet together they create something extraordinary. A civilization built not only upon monuments and rulers, but upon routine, preparation, cooperation, and patience. And beneath the warm afternoon sun, beside the timeless waters of the Nile, those quiet routines continue once more. The afternoon breeze moves gently across the Nile. It is not a strong wind. Just enough to stir the reeds along the riverbank and bring a little relief from the lingering heat. The water reflects the bright sky above, broken only by the passage of boats and the occasional ripple made by fish beneath the surface. For the people of ancient Egypt, this part of the day often feels quieter than the busy morning hours. Work continues. But there is a softness to it now. The hardest heat has begun to fade. Shadows slowly lengthen across fields and roads. The land seems to settle into a calmer rhythm. Along one stretch of farmland, a group of workers moves through rows of grain. The plants sway gently around them. They examine the crops carefully. One worker notices an area that may need additional water in the coming days. Another checks the condition of a nearby canal wall. The observations seem small. Simple. Yet these small observations help prevent larger problems. The organized nature of Egyptian agriculture depends upon constant attention. Fields are not simply planted and forgotten. They are watched, maintained, protected. The success of the harvest begins long before the grain is gathered. A farmer pauses beside a narrow water channel. The canal carries water steadily toward several nearby fields. He kneels and studies the flow. The water makes a soft sound as it moves past. For a few moments, he listens. Then he removes a small obstruction that has collected near the edge. The task takes less than a minute. Yet it matters. Tiny interruptions can slowly grow into larger difficulties if ignored. This practical understanding appears throughout Egyptian life. People often solve problems while they are still small. A damaged basket is repaired before it falls apart. A leaking roof is patched before rain can cause greater damage. A weakened canal wall is reinforced before it collapses. Preparation becomes a habit. And habits become culture. Across the Nile Valley, this mindset helps create remarkable stability. Not far away, a young boy walks beside his grandfather. The older man moves slowly now. Age has softened his strength but deepened his knowledge. As they walk, he points toward different features of the landscape. The fields. The canals. The storage buildings. The river itself. Each one has a story. Each one serves a purpose. The boy listens carefully. He asks occasional questions. The answers come slowly. Without hurry. Knowledge in ancient Egypt often travels this way. Not through formal speeches. Not through written instructions. But through quiet conversations during ordinary moments. A lesson shared while walking. Advice offered while working. A story told beside an evening fire. These exchanges help preserve the wisdom accumulated across generations. The grandfather remembers floods from decades ago. He remembers years of especially good harvests. He remembers difficult seasons when careful planning became essential. His memories hold practical value. And by sharing them, he helps prepare the next generation. Nearby, a group of women works beneath a shaded shelter weaving cloth. The repetitive motion of the looms creates a steady rhythm. Thread passes through skilled fingers. Patterns emerge slowly. The work requires patience, precision, attention. A loose thread can affect the finished fabric. Every detail matters. One young apprentice concentrates intensely on her section. Occasionally an older weaver offers guidance. A small correction here. A helpful suggestion there. Learning takes place naturally. The apprentice improves little by little. The process mirrors countless others throughout Egypt. Skills are rarely mastered quickly. They grow gradually through repetition and experience. This slow accumulation of knowledge contributes greatly to the organization of society. Reliable skills create reliable results. Reliable results create stability. And stability allows communities to thrive. As the afternoon continues, boats move steadily along the Nile. Some carry cargo. Others transport travelers. A few serve fishermen tending their nets. The river remains a constant source of movement and connection. At a riverside dock, workers prepare supplies for shipment. Bundles of reeds are stacked neatly. Clay jars are arranged carefully. Baskets of grain wait nearby. Everything has its place. Order makes loading easier. Order makes counting easier. Order reduces mistakes. Many Egyptian workers understand this instinctively. A well-organized workspace saves time and effort. The principle applies almost everywhere. In homes. In workshops. In fields. In storage buildings. Organization becomes woven into daily life. A merchant overseeing the shipment checks each item before departure. His records must match the cargo. Accuracy matters. People in another village may be expecting these supplies. Deliveries support trade. Trade supports communities. The larger system depends upon countless smaller systems functioning properly. The merchant understands this. Even if he never thinks of it in such grand terms. For him, it is simply part of the job. As the sun slowly moves westward, the quality of light begins to change. The bright white glare of midday softens into warmer tones. Golden highlights appear along the river. Palm trees cast longer shadows. The landscape grows more beautiful with each passing hour. Many workers notice the change. The end of the workday is approaching. Not yet. But soon. A quiet sense of anticipation begins to spread. In one workshop, a potter carefully lifts a finished vessel from a drying area. The clay has hardened nicely. The shape feels balanced. He turns it slowly in his hands, examining every surface. Satisfied, he places it beside several others. Rows of jars stand waiting nearby. Each one will eventually serve a purpose. Storing grain. Carrying water. Holding oil. Preserving food. Simple objects often play important roles in organized societies. Without containers, storage becomes difficult. Without storage, planning becomes harder. The potter may not think about these larger connections. Yet his work supports them all. Elsewhere, a baker begins preparing dough for the evening. The smell of grain fills the air. His hands move with practiced confidence. Years of repetition have transformed complex tasks into familiar routines. He measures ingredients almost without thinking. The process feels natural. Comfortable. Ancient Egyptian life often works this way. People become deeply familiar with their responsibilities. The repetition creates expertise. The expertise creates reliability. The reliability creates order. Across the village, Children finish helping with afternoon chores. Some gather small bundles of firewood. Others assist with carrying supplies. Their tasks remain simple. Yet every responsibility teaches something. Patience. Cooperation. Awareness. The children may not realize it, but they are slowly learning how their community functions. One day they will become the farmers, bakers, fishermen, scribes, and craftsmen who keep the village running. The lessons begin early. And they begin quietly. As afternoon gradually shifts toward evening, a cooler breeze drifts across the fields. Workers straighten their backs. Stretch tired muscles. Take a moment to look across the landscape. The Nile glimmers in the distance. Fields stretch toward the horizon. Smoke from cooking fires has not yet appeared, but soon it will. The day is entering its final chapter. A feeling of completion settles gently over the land. Much has been accomplished. Canals have been maintained. Goods have been transported. Records have been updated. Food has been prepared. Crops have been tended. Lessons have been shared. The countless routines that support Egyptian life have unfolded once again. Not dramatically. Not loudly. But steadily. Just as they did yesterday. Just as they will tomorrow. The organization of ancient Egypt is not something built in a single moment. It is created anew each day through ordinary actions repeated with care. And as the warm afternoon light slowly turns golden beside the Nile, those actions continue quietly across the landscape, guiding another peaceful day toward evening. Here is the soft closing section of the story. Why life in ancient Egypt was so organized. Boring history ending. The sun has long since disappeared beyond the western horizon. Evening settles gently across the Nile Valley. The last workers have returned home. The last boats have been tied securely along the shore. The last cooking fires glow softly behind mud-brick walls. And little by little, the sounds of the day fade into silence. The Nile continues flowing through the darkness. Just as it did yesterday. Just as it will tomorrow. Its waters move quietly beneath the stars, carrying moonlight across the sleeping land. The reeds sway softly in the night breeze. Palm trees whisper overhead. Far away, a bird calls once before becoming still again. The villages rest. The fields rest. The workshops rest. The boats rest. Families lie sleeping inside their homes. Tired hands finally become still. Tired feet no longer walk dusty roads. Tired eyes close after another day shaped by familiar routines. And perhaps that is the secret that guided so much of life in ancient Egypt. Not grand palaces. Not famous rulers. Not monuments rising toward the sky. But ordinary days. Quiet days. Days filled with simple responsibilities carried out again and again. A farmer checking a canal. A baker preparing bread before dawn. A fisherman mending a net. A scribe recording a shipment. A mother storing grain carefully for the future. A child watching and learning. These small moments rarely appear in history books. Yet they formed the steady foundation beneath an entire civilization. The organization of Egypt lived inside habits. Inside routines. Inside preparation. Inside cooperation. The river followed its path. The seasons followed their cycles. And people learned to follow rhythms of their own. One day flowing into the next. One generation teaching another. One quiet task supporting countless others. As the centuries passed, the pattern continued. The Nile rose and fell. The crops grew and were harvested. Bread baked in warm ovens. Boats crossed calm waters. Children became adults. Adults became elders. And the great river watched it all. Now the night grows deeper. The stars shine brightly above the valley. Moonlight reflects across the water like silver drifting through darkness. The air feels cooler. Softer. Still. The villages sleep beneath the same sky their ancestors knew. The river moves gently beside them. Unhurried. Endless. Peaceful. And as the waters of the Nile continue their slow journey through the ancient night, the world becomes quieter and quieter. The distant sounds disappear. The lamps go dark. The breeze softens. The river whispers. And beneath the stars of ancient Egypt, everything slowly fades into calm, into silence, and into sleep,